Happy Sunday, everyone. Hi, welcome to our first MONII 2021. I'm so excited today because we're going to have a very special guest, as all our guests are special anyway. We're going to have another one. Today we're going to have Maff Potts from England, and he's going to really be sharing his story. And also he's going to be telling us about his project called Camerados. So please do wait, and he's coming up in the camera in a few minutes. But before that, I just want to make sure that you stay till the end actually of this live talk, because Maff, he's got a surprise for us. So I can't really wait to see what he's going to do. So it's going to be amazing. So I just want to really remind us, guys, why we're here, MONII, why we're here, why we're doing this. We want to inspire the world with one story really at a time. Why we're doing this? Because we actually believe that there are so many beautiful stories over there that people, they don't know yet. They don't know about so many beautiful projects as well that maybe is happening in Portugal, in Canada, or in UK, or in France, or USA, so many different countries. And what we want to do is to actually bring and invite different people that actually have something that can inspire us all, because it's not been easy, as you know. It's been a lockdown in so many parts of the world, and we have to be really keeping safe, well, healthy and strong to make sure that we hear some inspiration stories really to be able to actually keep us going. We need that. We need this energy, beautiful energy that is positive. We need to hear people that coming up and say that, let's see what they have to tell us to keep us here. So I'm just really trying to see if I can bring Maff Potts here now into our camera. So I think I will. Before that, I want to say thank you to Alison and Natalie from March Muses, because they had as well beautiful speech last time at MONII. And I want to say thank you to them. And if you guys in here, their story, please do watch after this live talk as well, because it was amazing. And I can see Maff Potts there. I cannot see your face very well. So can you just put the camera, Maff, a little bit up? Yes, that is so much better. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. I've decided to do it by the fire, outside with the piano. I hope that's okay. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear you okay. And we do not have any echo, anything. That's amazing. I can see you drinking as well. I'm drinking a cup of tea, but you have such a beautiful mug, and it says Camerados there.
That's right. And on the other side, it says, look out for each other, be a camarado.
Wow, we want to find out all about that for sure. So cheers to you.
Cheers to you. Can you hear that?
Woohoo! I can see that is the start of the show. I want to, before we go to any deep conversations and find out so much more about your story and everything, I want really to ask you about the time where we met, because I know we've met about maybe, what, 20 years ago?
20 years ago! I know.
That was amazing. It was amazing. Come on, tell us more about that, because we have some friends in common, and I want you to tell us about a story of a very good friend as well. I can see lots of people are already talking on the chat. I will encourage everyone to actually, if you have any questions at any time, just put it on the comments. I know that we're just going with the flow with our conversation at the present time, but Maff is going to actually reply to everyone after the live talk. So feel free to put any comments anytime. Okay, so Maff, tell me. So we met in 2020 and was for working for a big homeless organization. Do you want to say the name? It's fine.
Yeah. So Crisis, I think Crisis UK, they probably changed your life and changed my life. I've never known how you ended up at Crisis, Monica. Well, how did that happen?
Well, it was my first employer. So I came the second time to UK to live, and it was in January 2000 I came. And then I went straight to study, and I remember it was a City Islington College. I went to the business administration course, and then I did my work experience at Crisis. And that was around July, where I did I worked with Steph Comac, I don't know if she's there, but in the befriending project. Then is when I applied for a job, and I started in September working with Kay Pool. Remember Kay Pool?
Ah, lovely Kay Pool. I love that lady.
In volunteering. And I know, Maff, when I was doing Changing Lives project at Crisis, we met a very amazing, fabulous guy called Jamie.
Yes.
Remember?
So I was a volunteer, and I met Jamie in the drinkers shelter. So when I volunteered for Crisis, because after my parents died, I didn't feel I had anywhere to spend Christmas, really. I didn't really want to spend it with my brothers and sisters, and it was a kind of strange time, Christmas, without mum and dad. So I decided to spend it in the homeless shelters in London, and I filled out an application form, and the first year Crisis said no. So I went and worked for the Salvation Army on Portobello Road, and it was an amazing experience. So the next year I tried again, and I said, any shelter, any shift. And I got a letter back which said, night shift, drinkers shelter. And I thought, oh man, I was basically going to be up all night with about, 100 to 200 homeless drinkers. And so I was terrified. However, it became still the best time I've ever had in the job. I loved it. I can't tell you how much I loved it. And eventually I became what's known as a shift leader, and I started running the night shift on the drinkers shelter. And one night there was this guy rolled up inside a futon, and in the corner, a futon mattress, and we couldn't move him. And what I didn't know is it was Jamie, and Jamie was detoxing off heroin that year, because a really amazing story. He'd spent 28 years on heroin, and he kind of ruined his life, really. Lots of stuff in his life about his relationship with his father and his family. But anyway, he was on heroin, in and out of prison. And then that Christmas, he was standing on a bridge overlooking the Thames in London, and he met a girl who wanted some of his heroin, his drugs, and he gave some to her. And then he said, "How old are you?" And she said, "I'm 19." And he suddenly thought, whoa, that's how old I was when I started taking drugs. And in that moment, he took all of his heroin and he threw it in the Thames. And he said that year is the year that the Thames got stoned. And he came to my shelter, and he rolled himself up in a futon mattress, and he came off drugs. Now, the next year he came, he gave me a poem to put on the wall. Now, what I didn't know about Jamie was that he could not read and he could not write. But in the year since he'd thrown his stash in the Thames, that 1 year, some people had been teaching him in a doorway on the street how to speak English. And eventually they wanted him to go to their Christian retreat, and he did not want to go there. So he carried on learning himself from street signs and shop signs. And he taught himself how to read and write. And when I met him the next Christmas, he wrote a poem called One Man's Life. And it was amazing. Yes. A man who could not read, could not write, wrote this poem. So I put it on the wall. He couldn't believe I put it on the wall. So he wrote me another one, and another one, and another one. And that Christmas, we wallpapered the shelter with Jamie's poems. Poem, everywhere. And we found him somewhere to live. And he became like the poet laureate for Crisis. He used to read his poems at our carol services at Westminster Abbey. The Jamie story is amazing. He went on to become Outstanding Learner of the Year, and the Secretary of State for Education gave him a certificate at the British Library. And I was there. And he's an amazing guy, an amazing story.
Yes, it's an amazing story. I'll never forget that story because I was working at that project, Changing Lives, where we actually managed to give up to £2,000 to him to actually get some computer equipment to actually towards his progress. So it was beautiful. But Maff, we're here for you and talk about you. And I want to understand about some of the issues that you talked about in terms of before you just got into crisis. You have a very story that you'd like to actually talk through, and it's about mental health and things like that.
Yeah.
Tell me more, because you're from England, right? So you said that your parents died when?
Yeah. So just I guess the 1990, 1993. So my mum was 53, my dad was 57. So it was just before my 18th birthday. Just after my 18th birthday, my mum died of cancer. And just before my 21st, my dad died of heart disease. It's not a remarkable story. A lot of people have this. You know, between 45 and 55, a lot of men and women get cancer or heart disease. You know, it's a big corridor. You know, it's. And my mum and dad, they were taken by both of them, and so that's had a profound effect on me, and everything after that has been about that for me, if I'm to be honest with you.
Yeah. Definitely. And I want to understand as well, because after your crisis, you've done so many other things. I want to really understand how come that give you all these strengths to always helping people that are people that actually always struggle the most. Why inspires you to go into this path and now set up Camerados as well?
Well,
tell us more.
really, it's not strength. It's totally selfish.
Selfish.
Yeah. It's totally selfish because, you know, I'll be honest with you. I was very, very intensely close to my parents. I don't know what your relationship is, but you're such a wonderful family person, Monica. I imagine there's a lot of love in your family. My family was very, very close.
But you know, I lost my dad when I was 6. So I don't know what is to have a dad really. But
Yeah.
I'm very close to family because my mother and I was being raised always around with my uncles and you know, aunties. So I'm blessed in that way, definitely. But you were both parents.
Yeah, but I was lucky because I had my dad for longer than you did, and but what happened was we developed a very, very strong bond, and my brothers and sister, they were much older than me, so they'd left home, and I'm close to them. They're lovely people, but they had their own life. They'd gone. So for all of my teenage years, it was mum, dad, and me, the three of us. We went on holiday together. We went abroad together. We did everything together. And every weekend, my dad and other kids would go out with their friends. I would go out with my dad. Me and dad would go on a project somewhere, discovering the source of the local canal or the railway. And we were total geeks. And dad and me were really close. We loved history. We loved jazz. We loved music. We played together. We were the best of friends, and he was my total hero. So when he died when I was 21, I'll be honest with you, it was the end of things for me. And so when you say, how did you get?
Why?
Sorry?
Why? How did you can say that it was the end for you because it's your life is like finished because you lost your parents, definitely. But what was the impact that made in your life? What did you do like to yourself?
Yeah. So I mean, I all the color left the world, so it became a black and white world, and so I couldn't really, you know, my brain tried to find meaning and it couldn't find any. I didn't see the point. And every time I argued with it, I came to the same conclusion, which is, well, there's no point. And I didn't have a connection with anyone else. Nobody spoke to me like Dad did. The conversation wasn't as rich. No one understood me. And so I kind of thought, I'm done, you know, I'm done. And actually, to be honest, what happened is it was 10 years before it got really bad. So for 10 years, I did the thing that a lot of men do, particularly men from my part of the world, which is I buried it, and so I had kind of low-level depression for 10 years, and then 10 years later it exploded, and I started cutting myself. I used to cut my neck with scissors, and so I used to have these really big scars coming down here all the time, and I couldn't quite go through with killing myself, but I wanted to hurt myself. And on the days when I would come out of it, I used to be so embarrassed that I would wear a big jumper, a big woolen jumper to hide the scars. And I remember when I had the interview for Crisis, it was summer, and I was wearing a big red woolen jumper to hide the scars in my interview. And I remember I was pretending to be really efficient and controlled, and they didn't know they were interviewing a guy with scars, you know. And yeah, I spent about 9 months of being homeless, but I don't talk about it much as homelessness because, you know, I've seen what really bad homelessness is, and that wasn't what I went through. But you know, I had nowhere to sleep every 2 or 3 days, and I would have to find somewhere to go, and I would have to talk to a friend and ask them. It was so embarrassing, asking if I can sleep on their floor, and I had to do that for about 9 months. And sometimes I had to sleep on the underground train and in the car and stuff. But the main problem was the mental health, really.
Yes.
But Monica, the thing is here is that what I realized was when I volunteered for Crisis in the shelters, and I sat down with people who had lost everything, this was the only time that argument in my head could not find a reason for stopping. Suddenly, I had a reason to stay. and the sorry?
Well, it became like you could see other people actually with so many other struggles, right?
But you see here, don't you find it funny that I thought I was going to the shelters to help people, and what happened was people with nothing at the end of their life, they helped me, and they gave my entire life a meaning, because I could not argue myself out of the fact that what I was doing was great, and that they were great, and this connection we had was great. My mind couldn't argue that away. So I thought, oh, I'll do this, and that gave me 2 things, which are the only 2 things we all need for life: connection with human beings and purpose, friends and purpose. And it gave me a massive purpose.
Absolutely, Maff. I'm so proud of you, and thank you so much for sharing that story as well with us.
Okay.
Because I have to say to you that Crisis definitely changed my life too. Because no way, at that time, I worked there for 5 years, different projects in the shelters as a volunteer, as a member of the staff, and I could see that my problems were so small towards so many people over there. And no way, at that time when I met you, I didn't know anything about you. I didn't even know about your story. So you managed to do it so well. And I want to ask you, how did you manage to overcome that? Was anything else that helped you? Because I think what I want to make sure we pass to the audience is, I'm sure so many people maybe, or they are watching here now, or maybe they'll be watching after the video, that might be struggling as well now with some of the problems that you've done and you had. And what was that moment that made you really think about, I need to do something for my life now?
Well, the moment is quite dramatic. It would make a really good film. Basically, I was turning 30, and I had a job interview, and I was doing my last gig on a cruise ship playing piano. So I don't know if you know, MONII, but I used to play piano on ships. So I used to I used to be a jazz piano player on ships, on the boats, you know, and it would help me pay my rent. I was doing my last cruise, and the job interview, I got the job for Crisis. This was all in 1 week. Okay, I got the job interview, but I knew that I was turning 30 while I was in the middle of the sea on this boat, and my birthday, obviously, every year was a big deal for me because it was the anniversary of my mother and my father dying. So every birthday I used to dread every year, and I knew that my 30th birthday, I was going to be in the middle of the sea, and I honestly thought I was going to jump overboard. I kind of knew that. I knew that this was probably the end. So I went to I went to see the doctor, and I said to the doctor, "Look, I hate pills for depression. I hate doctors getting involved. I'm from the north of England. I'm very stubborn, but I don't want to die. So give me some pills, whatever works. I don't care. Give me all the shit. Give me all the shit." All right. So he gave me the pills. I went on board the boat. I took the pills. It kind of kept me okay. I got a phone call from Crisis. "You've got the job." Okay, this is my first job. And then a woman came on board the ship, and she was called Ruth. And I met her in the same week, and she became my wife. And
wow, and I know she's beautiful.
And so
beautiful.
I got my purpose and my connection and my life turned around in 1 week. In 7 days, everything went like this. Boom.
It's so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because in the end of the day, we could actually say that sometimes we are just in that limit between life or to do something really crazy, okay? And you just, you know, you kept in there, and you did ask for help because you went to the doctor and asked for help, and that is amazing. It's amazing. What would you say to people who are watching now and maybe are in some kind of very depressed, or they don't have the strength? What would you say to them?
Well, what I would say is that I still have this same problem. It doesn't, for me at least, it does not go away. So twice a year, maybe.
Loss of your parents, right?
Yeah.
Because I always stay there. I get you, because I have exactly the same with the loss of my dad. I was very young. I would never accept it. You know, it's difficult.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right. I'm sorry for you, but we need to keep going.
Yes. Well, so I would say to people that I call it the black dogs. So Winston Churchill used to have an expression for his depression. He called it the black dogs. And that helps me talk about it. I don't like talking about mental health. I don't like talking about depression. A lot of people don't. So I talk about my black dogs, and I'm quite public about it. I tell people that the black dogs are visiting me, and it still happens twice a year. And what happens is I don't have the capacity to lift myself during that period. For about 10 days, I'm on the floor. And I think it's beyond grief now, MONII. I don't know if it's about my parents anymore. It's now this thing that is just part of me now. And so I would say that we still struggle with them, but the Camerados, the movement, is all about not trying to find the solution. Stop finding an outcome, an end point, the answer. Forget that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just be with other humans, okay, and look out for them, and you will get connection and purpose, and this will get you through all of it. You don't have to find an answer. This is just who you are now, okay?
Exactly.
But you just by the fire with a piano, cup of tea, and a lovely friend. This is life. This is what gets you through life.
And I can see you did find your purpose now, because you set up now Camerados, and it's doing so well. I'd like you to talk now more about, first of all, we want to understand where this name came from. Why Camerados?
Yes.
And tell us about it, really.
So I decided after 20 years working in social justice, mostly homelessness, I got very frustrated with the fact that we weren't making a real difference to people's lives. People were still coming back. They were still becoming homeless. And I realized that friends and purpose was nowhere. People did not include it as the answer. So I sat in my bedroom and decided to start a movement based on friends and purpose. I didn't get very far because I was trying to do it on my own in my bedroom. What an idiot. So it wasn't until...
to do something, so it's good.
I know, but
yeah.
But I bet you, MONII, you couldn't start this unless you had Tanya and Eve and all the other people involved. So I had an old friend called Jenny, and Jenny is the reason Camerados exists and is successful, because on my own it would have gone nowhere. So you have to have someone else. And
yes.
during this time when we were trying to start it, I was writing emails to people, and one of them was to an agency which helps people with brand and all that stuff. And when I said to them, listen, can you help me come up with a name for this? They said, well, Maff, every time you email me, you start an email with, hey, Camerado, can you, blah, blah. And I said, oh, yeah. And they said, so you're called Camerados. And the reason that I used to say Camerado was I'm a big fan of the poet Walt Whitman. Do you know Walt Whitman?
Yes, I read it because we discussed about that before, and it's amazing.
Yeah, so he's the most amazing American poet, and he's really the poet of the common man, the working man. And he wrote a poem called Song for the Open Road. And the whole poem is about the open road of life. And more important than money, more important than food, on the open road of life, you need a camerado alongside you on the journey, right? Someone to share it with, just someone beside you, you know.
Yeah.
And so we took the word, and we like it because it sounds like camaraderie. It's warm, and also we like it because nobody knows what it means, so it doesn't have a bad meaning, which a lot of words in social justice do have a bad meaning, you know.
Absolutely. And I know that now you have set up so many public living rooms. Tell us more about, because you've been in prison, you know, you've been as well in hospitals,
yeah,
and the library. So tell us, how did that grow? And what actually was your fear to overcome as well? Because that'll be interesting to know.
Well, if anyone's thinking of starting something, I guess I just would ask them to think about challenging what everyone else is probably telling them, and maybe not listen, because the world tells you to write a plan, a business plan, and the world tells you to make a funding application, and all the things that will slow you down and stop you doing anything and depress you. So instead, Jenny and me, we got in a car and we just drove, and we went somewhere and we did something in a community with some chairs. Just do something. Okay, we set up a public living room in an old garage in the middle of Sheffield in winter. Okay, and there was no heating, and we wanted it to be a place for people who were lonely in January to come. And Jenny's amazing, so she set up the fairy lights. That's why I've got fairy lights here. I don't know if you can see the fairy lights.
So I can
so we always have to have Jenny's fairy lights, and we had tea and coffee. We had no money, so we got a sofa and some armchairs off the internet, free cycle, free stuff. And we put a sign outside the door saying, here are the top 5 David Bowie songs. If you disagree, come in and argue with us. And we had people coming in from the building site. We had people coming in who were shopping. We had homeless people from doorways coming in. We had some alcoholics from a drinker's service down the road and a mental health service. People just came in, they sat down. And so we just started, and then we tried it in a library, we tried it in a park, we tried it in a prison, in a hospital. We did it on the Brooklyn Bridge in New York. We did it on the subway in New York. And all the time we were learning and learning and learning. And then what we did, we put all this learning in a box.
Yeah.
And now, if anybody wants to do a place like this in their neighborhood, their community, we send them the box and we say, go. And they do it themselves. And now we have a network all over the UK and the world doing that.
That's beautiful. And can I just say, I would like to share my experience as well, because I went to London Borough of Camden, and I visited one of your public living rooms near the church, and was amazing, where so many people were there from, you know, the public, some homeless, anyone who was just talking to each other. And the most important thing for me is, imagine a place where you actually go through a very tough time, and you just mix up with people that they don't look like you, they don't speak like you, but at the same time, they welcome you just to be you.
That's it.
And Maff, this is why I said to you, this is why crisis transformed my life, because I never ever could imagine so many people were on the streets, on homeless in UK, because I was coming from Portugal. I didn't experience that. And it was so difficult for me. I didn't have many friends as well in UK at that time. And people just welcome me, not be able to speak English very well at the time. They were just accepting the way I was. And that is what people need, Maff, don't you think?
They need to be more human.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. I love that. I love that because it's all about that. And I want to ask you a few questions, actually. What are now your sources of inspiration that you think that you need to have, like, to be really inspired for you to, because I know you have a family now, it's big, you have beautiful boys.
Yeah.
What is that for them?
What do you, is the question, what inspires me to keep going or gives me new ideas?
Yes, Guy and
yeah, absolutely, my children are very questioning of everything all the time. So they never just accept what I say. So I have to fight for everything in my house. So I have particularly my little boy, Sonny, who's 9. My goodness me, he has spirit. And so I have to justify everything. And that's really good. It keeps you on your toes. And also my wife is much smarter and more talented than me. So that means, again, I have to justify my existence every day. So I think that's good. But I would say also for them, and also for my team and Jenny and people like that, I would say that encouragement is the biggest currency you can give at the moment, particularly with COVID in the pandemic. Is I don't think people realize just how important it is to encourage each other. And we have 6 principles in Camerados, and I'd urge everybody to go to our website and read them. And but Jenny tells us that there is a 7th principle, and our unofficial 7th principle is we want others to be successful. And I think that is where I get a lot of my inspiration from. Is I look at what other people are doing and I tell them they are brilliant, and that really I can see them light up and I can see things happen. Right now in the world, and particularly in my country, our country, although you have 2 countries, I think people like to criticize first, and we should encourage first.
Definitely, I agree. Do you know why? Because sometimes you feel like, if you just put everything down, what is left? You need to make sure that you give something that is positive, that people actually can bring some light and can do so much more for other people, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's been amazing. Come on, tell us some of your values, because I want to hear. I want to make sure people can hear that. Do you have some of them?
Okay, yeah. I'm just trying to think. If I got something to say.
I know that you have the ones that you say that we need to be there for each other. What is that?
Well, so I have a little badge here which I showed you before. So we have a principle about it's okay to fail, it's okay to be a bit rubbish, and we need to create spaces and places where people are. It's okay not to be amazing. It's okay to fail, and we have a badge which you probably can't see, but it says, "I'm a bit shit sometimes," and this badge is so popular because
it is. I can say so many times.
Yeah, and we can all say I'm a bit shit, but it's a lovely thing to give permission to other people to be a bit shit, because instantly the atmosphere changes, because everyone reads that and they go, yeah, me too, I'm a bit shit too, and we connect and we relax and we work together all around